he's got to bring today, and we pray that you will bless us and bless him through these next few minutes. Thank you. And when you're ready, I'll read the scriptures.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear? Is that all right? If you can't hear me, just at the back, just do that or something so I start speaking up, because I have a tendency to get quieter. I'm going to stand here because I've got my water and I don't want to kick it over and put it all over Stuart's electronics, which I'm likely to do. This morning we're going to talk about... We're continuing in the series. Sorry, let me just get myself sorted. So we're continuing in the series, The Seven Signs in John. And today we're going to talk about what John calls the second sign, which is the healing of the official son in Capernaum. We're continuing from last time when Phil talked about the changing of water into wine in the wedding in Cana. Phil sort of introduced it and talked about that miracle. And he started off just by introducing a general introduction, but I think that's worth repeating. You may hear it again, probably. And just what John means by the signs. It says after that passage about Cana in Galilee, the miracle, it said, what Jesus did here in the Cana in Galilee was the first sign of the signs through which he revealed his glory. And his disciples believed in him. At the end of John, is it? Do I need to move this? A bit more. Try that. Jesus does kind of a summary. John gives a summary of why he's written the book, why he's written John, his gospel. He says in John 20, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So John's writing to convince us that Jesus is the Messiah and to follow him, basically. And these signs that are given, they're events in Jesus' life. They show who Jesus is and are there to convince us that he is the Lord, that he is the Messiah, and that we should follow him because that's the best thing to do. That is what we're created for. John's gospel and how he writes it demands a response from us. And that's what he's wanting, a response from us. So I'm going to go through this passage. I'm going to share what thoughts that came to mind. It's not going to be comprehensive probably, but these are the things that came to mind, and I hope that's helpful to you. So Graham, if you could read that.
So we're reading from John chapter 43 onwards, and it's Jesus heals the official son. I'm going to read from the New Living Translation because it's easy. At the end of the 2 days, Jesus went on to Galilee. He himself had said that a prophet is not honored in his own hometown. Yet the Galileans welcomed him, for they had been in Jerusalem at the Passover celebration and had seen everything he did there. As he traveled through Galilee, he came to Cana, where he had turned the water into wine. There was a government official in nearby Capernaum whose son was very sick. And when he heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went and begged Jesus to come up to Capernaum to heal his son, who was about to die. Jesus asked, "Will you never believe in me unless you see miraculous signs and wonders?" The official pleaded, "Lord, please come now before my little boy dies." Then Jesus told him, "Go back home and your son will live." And the man believed what Jesus said and started home. While the man was on his way, some of his servants met with him with the news that his son was alive and well. He asked them when the boy had begun to get better, and they replied, "Yesterday afternoon at 1 o'clock, his fever suddenly disappeared." And then the father realized that that was the very time that Jesus... I'm sorry. I usually read from my other phone, which is set not to turn the screen off. While the man was on his way, some of his servants met him with the news that his son was alive and well. And he asked them when the boy had begun to get better, and they replied, "Yesterday afternoon at 1 o'clock, his fever suddenly disappeared." Then the father realized that that was the very time Jesus had told him, "Your son will live." And he and his entire household believed in Jesus. This was the second miraculous sign Jesus did in Galilee after coming from Judea.
Thanks, Graham. So we're back in... Where do I point it? Yeah, please. So we're back in Cana in Galilee. Just to recap a bit, last time we talked about the wedding in Cana in Galilee, and after that, Jesus goes down to Capernaum for a few days, which is by the Sea of Galilee, and then he heads off down to Jerusalem, right down there near the bottom. And at that point, he goes there to celebrate the Passover. And during the Passover, he caused a bit of a stir. In John's account, this is where he goes into the temple and upturns all the tables in the temple. This is where he meets Nicodemus at night, one of the Jewish Pharisees leaders, religious leaders. And then he returns to Galilee by way of Samaria, where he meets the woman at the well and stays in the Samaritan village for a little while before returning back up to Cana in Galilee. There's a lot of people will have been down in Jerusalem for the Passover, coming back to Galilee. And when he arrived in Galilee, the Galileans welcomed. They'd seen all that he had done in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, for they also were there. So they'd seen what he'd done, miraculous signs, the stir that he'd caused. He was a bit of a celebrity, I guess, by now. But it also says, now Jesus himself pointed out that a prophet has no honor in his own country, which feels a bit strange. There's something in there. They welcome him and celebrate him, but the verse there just gives a bit of a, well, is everything right? There's obviously must be an excitement, a buzz that within Galilee now in Cana, that people are coming back and Jesus is here. Maybe he's there homegrown local celebrity, the miracle worker. At the end, in chapter 2, just as he leaves Jerusalem, it does say, many people believed because of the miraculous signs he was doing, but Jesus didn't entrust himself to them. So again, there's an indication of they believe and they're in the miracles, they've seen the miracles and they're attracted to Jesus, but there's something not quite right. And then we've got this event, this occasion, we've got an encounter with another character that comes on the scene. A certain royal official whose son lay sick in Capernaum and who was close to death. This guy was an important man, probably an official, an officer in Herod's service. Have the next slide, please. Sounds... I'm not going to talk about COVID. When this man heard that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went to him and begged him to come and heal his son, who was close to death. It's probably about 20 miles from Capernaum to Cana, or something like that. You saw from the map, Capernaum's on the coast of the Lake Galilee. Cana is up, I think it's up in the hills a bit. So the journey is not that straightforward. Even for a royal official, it might be a day or two's journey. It'd be a long day's journey. The roads aren't that good, so even on horseback, possibly, which he may have done because he's a royal official, it would still be a rough journey. It's not a comfortable journey, but he's heard of Jesus and he's in a desperate situation. He knows and probably heard the story. He may have seen him in Capernaum. And his son is dying. Where else can he go? He knows, or he's got enough faith, he's got enough belief that he knows Jesus can do something. So he goes up desperately to Cana because he's heard he's there in search of Jesus. There's no indication that he pulls rank on Jesus in any way. He's an important royal official, but he goes and he begs because he's desperate, because he loves his son and he doesn't want him to die. What's our response in crisis or when we're desperate? Is Jesus the first person we go to, or is he down the list? Sometimes the natural reaction is depends what you like really, it's to either try and fix it immediately. What can we do? Panic? Or just run away and hide? But this man knew that he had to go to Jesus. Jesus was the one that could help him. It drove him into action, even though the journey that he made was probably difficult. And he went on his own. He went himself. He didn't just send his servants. He went himself to go there. Sometimes when we are desperate and we want to approach Jesus, however that is, we need help, we need him. Sometimes we need to do something, I don't know. We can pray, yeah. But sometimes it takes an effort. We have a desperate situation in Ukraine. And really, sometimes the only thing that we can do is pray. There's some people who have started to meet on a Sunday night just to pray. We pray in desperation. Sunday night, I've only been once, just because it's the way things are. It is a bit of an effort, even though it's on Zoom. Sometimes it's just an effort on a Sunday night to do something else. But it's important. Sometimes it just makes an effort to come to Jesus. And then we get a really slightly odd response from Jesus. Can we have the next? I think. It's the one before. Yeah. Unless you people see signs and wonders, Jesus told him, you will never believe. If it weren't for this verse, this passage would be a lot easier to preach on. Because it would just be, man comes to Jesus, asks for a healing, boy is healed, job done, great. But then we've got this almost a rebuke to the man who's come to him, which seems a bit callous in some ways. But here we're recorded in what Jesus says. And we've had a kind of indication on the other verses about a prophet not being honoured, that kind of thing. But the word is for you, it's you people, it's Charlotte's Jarl, everybody. There's obviously going to be crowds of people, a group of people around while this is going on. And it could be directed to the ruler, the official and his the ruling class, the leaders, or it could be addressed to the general people that were around. Does it mean that we shouldn't ask for signs or that are a bad thing? I don't believe that is the case, but it's important how we respond and how we treat those signs. The Pharisees and the religious leaders were always looking for a sign and telling Jesus, give us a sign of who you are. And you read through the Gospels and you think the signs are there. But even at the end, even when Jesus was on the cross, the Pharisees were taunting him, the religious leaders were taunting him with, give us a sign. If you come down from the cross now by yourself and get yourself off that cross, then we'll believe. There's always if you do that, then we'll believe. But he gives signs, but they never believe. Their hearts are hardened, and whatever sign is going to be given, they're not going to believe or convinced. It's kind of a prove yourself. And then there are other stories in the Bible. In the Old Testament, Moses has signs. He doesn't ask for them. He just gets signs from God when he meets God. And he gets a few. And God gives him certain signs to encourage him to obey God. But Moses sees them and he says, I don't care, I've seen the signs. I know you're powerful, but I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do what you want me to do. Eventually he does obey, but there is a reluctance. The story of Gideon, when God has asked him to lead an army. The story of Gideon and the fleeces. He asks for that sign because he needs reassurance. God is gracious and he gives him that sign, and Gideon obeys. So sometimes we ask for signs, or sometimes we see signs, but we need to respond in a certain way. There's a danger that miracles are the main thing, the entertainment, the spectacular, but not in trusting Jesus, which is the real point. Our trust is in the person of Jesus and not the miracle. The miracles and the signs encourage us to trust Jesus, but we're not to depend on them. We're to continue to trust even when there aren't signs. But the man persists. He's not put off. He says, "Sir, come down before my child dies." His focus is on, I guess, his child, the situation and the desperate situation he's in. He wants to see his child, his son, healed. And then Jesus says, "Go, your son will live." He doesn't even go down with him. He doesn't even go with the official. He just says, "No, your son is going to be healed." The official could have been a bit indignant that he, the important man, is not even coming down to visit him. He's not going to make an appearance at his house. But no, the man says, the passage says that the official took Jesus at his word and he departed. At that stage, he didn't have any evidence that his son was going to be healed. He's not heard any news, he's not seen his son well, but his faith was enough for him to seek out Jesus, and now Jesus has responded to him. And he's going to trust that response. Jesus may not have responded to him in the exact way that the man expected, but he knew enough to trust a little more. This isn't quite on the same scale, but some of you may know, Lisa and I have decided to take a break from work, and we're going travelling for a few months in the UK. And so I handed my notice in a couple of weeks ago. I was really quite nervous about it, and so when it came to the day, I was wanting an opportunity. My boss has got an office and he's not always in there on his own. So I was just asking, I did put that quick prayer, just make the opportunity. And there were 2 or 3 opportunities during that day that I skipped out of, but eventually we did go in. But the opportunities arose, and there was a point where I had to do something about it. I had to see, well, the opportunity's there. God isn't going to speak to my boss and tell him I'm leaving. I've got to go and do the thing. Maybe a silly example, but there are things that God sometimes says something to us, gives us promises. There comes a point sometimes when we have to do something about it. The day after he met Jesus, the official is going back to Capernaum, which is another hint at the length of the journey. And now he gets confirmation that what Jesus has told him is true. His son is living. And he asks for the timing, and it's the time his son gets better is exactly the same time as he met with Jesus. What a coincidence. The boy recovers. And then as a result of this sign, the official and all his household believe. So go back to what I started with, John's reason for writing, the reason for the signs. They demonstrate who Jesus is, a Messiah. And our response, the response of this man and his household, was to believe that and put their trust in him. I'm going to close now, but I just wanted to, I've got a few things just to, we'll have a little time of quiet and just time to reflect. And hopefully, if God speaks to you, take that. If you feel God wants to say anything to us, please feel free to speak it out. But these are the reflections I have. What have been your signs? Have you had any? They might be recent or a long time ago. And what do they mean for you? I remember being at a church weekend away quite a long time ago, and the person who was leading it told a story. They were walking by a river and they saw a little flash of blue, which was a kingfisher. And it was momentary, but it was thrilling for them to see that. And then in weeks afterwards, they kept going back to the same place, but they never saw the kingfisher again. And reflecting on it, they reflected on sometimes how God works with us. That we have moments where we are assured of his presence, of his help. But then it's not every day, it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes God still feels a long way off, yet we remember the times when he has been. And his promise is that he will be with us always, whether we feel it or not. But he encourages us by those kind of times and experiences. My other question is, what do you do when you are desperate? Do you reach out to God? Or do you try and find another way out? Are you in a situation that's desperate now? And so do you need some encouragement to keep going? Do you need to take Jesus at his word and trust? Or do you need to act and step out? Let's just be quiet for a couple of minutes. Allow God to speak. If you remember those signs, or just speak out what you want. You feel desperate, speak out to Jesus what you want. Maybe that act may be asking somebody to pray with you. Or it might be doing something else. If you feel God's saying anything, feel free to speak it out. I just can ask Stuart and Jill to come up and play the song, please. And you may just want to continue quiet listening, or you may want to just join in the song. But if you do feel that you need to pray with somebody, to talk to somebody, I encourage you at the end to seek somebody out, whether it's today or sometime this week.